Hi, welcome to Spoiler Lab. A father is ashamed of his daughter, whose face and body are covered in hair, so the girl is forced to grow up locked up on the second floor of a train station. Today we will recap the story of the 2016 movie, The Lion Woman. The story begins in 1912. At dusk, a pregnant woman named Ruth wanders along a snow-covered path. She stops in the middle of a clearing to admire the northern lights. At the same time, a train arrives at the train station. The station chief, a man named Gustav Arctender, is overseeing order on the platform. Pregnant Ruth collapses and finds herself lying in a snowdrift. She is accidentally found by an acquaintance, Mrs. Bergerson. She helps Ruth up. The pregnant woman announces that the birth is due in 2 or 3 weeks. The women go home to Ruth, and suddenly Mrs. Bergerson notices stains in the snow, which make it clear that Ruth is not well. The women rush to the train station to see Gustav, for he is Ruth's husband. Gustav picks up his wife in his arms and carries her into their home on the second floor of the train station. Ruth groans and realizes that she is about to give birth. Mrs. Bergerson asks Gustav to call the doctor as soon as possible. Ruth cries and hopes that God will help her. Gustav calls Dr. Levin and hopes that Ruth will survive despite her grave condition. The doctor arrives and locks himself in the room with the woman in labor. Finally, the baby is born. Mrs. Bergerson and Dr. Levin look at it with great surprise. The man notes that he has never seen anything like this before. Ruth can no longer be helped. She does not recover, despite the doctor's efforts. Gustav comes to say goodbye to his wife. At first, he shows no emotion and blames no one. Then Gustav looks at the infant and angrily remarks that it is not a child but a piece of wool. Mrs. Bergerson assures him that the baby will look normal in a couple of days, but in the meantime, she is ready to take it for herself. Then Gustav walks out into the snow-covered station and recalls his first meeting with Ruth. She came to town a few years ago as a music teacher. This is where their romance began. Gustav falls to his knees and weeps for his wife, who has passed away prematurely. A few days later, Gustav organizes a farewell service for Ruth. On the same day his newborn daughter is christened. During this time, he has not yet thought of a name for the child. Dr. Levin suggests that the child be named Eva, after the great foremother of all men. Thus, he hints that the newborn looks like an ape, just as primitive humans did. Gustav agrees, and Eva's christening begins. Mrs. Bergerson then takes the girl away from prying eyes. A memorial service for Ruth takes place in the church. During this time, the invitees whisper that something is wrong with Gustav's child. At the cemetery, the editor of the local newspaper shares his thoughts with the letter carrier that the funeral has been organized so lavishly to distract the public from the peculiarities of the child. Meanwhile, Mrs. Bergerson plays affectionately with Eva and swaddles her. This does not please Mr. Bergerson. He comes to Gustav demanding that he take Eva away, even though her fur has not yet fallen off. Then Dr. Levine finds a nurse for the baby, a 17-year-old girl named Hannah. She herself has recently lost a child, and her family has disowned her. Gustav and Hannah quickly find common ground. Soon Mrs. Bergerson brings Eva. At first Hannah looks at the girl with apprehension, but after a few minutes she realizes that she is an ordinary baby who needs warmth and love. Afterwards, the mailman comes to the apartment at the station to give Gustav a parcel. The mailman is greeted by Hannah with Eva in her arms. The man is incredibly surprised and forgets why he came. At a loss, he leaves the station. He is met on the street by the curious editor of the newspaper. The mailman, under strong impression, tells of an infant with a face covered in hair. The editor gloats and suggests that Eva may also have snake eyes and fangs. The mailman refutes this and asks that the information be kept secret, but the editor can no longer be stopped. He writes and prints a long article about Eva's peculiarities. Now everyone in town turns on Gustav and whispers behind his back. People think that the station master's child looks like an animal. A furious Gustav comes home and strictly forbids Hannah to go near the door and windows with the baby in her arms. The man yells that this is a train station, not a menagerie. He also forbids bringing Eva to his office, to the platform, and to the telegraph station. A frightened Hannah promises to comply with all demands. Gustav still hopes that the fur will start to fall out, but it doesn't. Eva does not get enough fresh air and cries frequently. Then Hannah asks Gustav to allow her to take the baby for walks in deserted places. The station master promises to think of a solution. The next day Gustav buys a stroller and shows Hannah a route that allows her to go for walks unnoticed. He only allows her to go for a walk on the vacant lot next to the depot, but at least that's something. After listening to the man, Hannah tells him that Eva has laughed for the first time today and suggests that Gustav take the girl in his arms. The man refuses, but is pleased with his daughter's progress. At the train station, Dr. Levine runs up to Gustav. He has received a letter from a doctor in the capital. He is interested in Eva's case and plans to come and see the girl. Gustav finds hope again. Soon the doctor from the capital arrives and becomes enthralled when he examines Eva. He has never seen anything like this before. Hannah, on the other hand, notes that Eva is developing and behaving like a normal child. The metropolitan doctor concludes that there is nothing wrong with the girl. All children in the womb in the 7th month begin to grow a lot of hair all over the body. After that, all the hair falls off. But in Eva's case, something went wrong, and her hair continued to grow. Now it is impossible to remove the hair. It will never go away. Gustav is in severe shock from this news. The year is 1919 and Eva is 7 years old. Her body and face are still covered with hair. Her father does not allow the girl to leave the house, and she can only watch the other children from the living room window. Eva looks at Ruth's photo and doesn't understand why she looks so different from her mother. The girl misses Ruth terribly, and sometimes she sees her mother in her dreams. Suddenly an airship flies over the station. Eva approaches the window and admires the attraction. Gustav notices it. He runs home at once, seizes the girl and forcibly locks her in a closet. Left alone, Eva visualizes complicated mathematical formulas. It is Christmas Eve. Eva and Hannah are decorating the Christmas tree in the living room, and Gustav is reading the newspaper next to them. Hannah talks passionately about going to a local Christmas tree as a child and playing with the other children there. Eva is fascinated by the story and wants to be a part of it too. Gustav asks Hannah to be quiet so as not to tease Eva. Later, the girl begs her father to take her to the Christmas celebration. But Gustav worries that other people might harm Eva. He already loves his daughter and cannot allow anyone to make fun of her. Eva is sad because her dreams cannot come true and because she is deprived of her mother's warmth. Gustav feels sorry for his daughter and decides to throw her a party after all. The man lovingly buys festive shoes and buckles for Eva, as well as a red dress. Hannah gives the girl her pearl beads. Eva now feels like a princess. The whole family goes to the Christmas celebration. There are a lot of people gathered here. They are quiet and they spread out at the sight of Eva, but they don't show any aggression. One boy asks Eva in a friendly way if her facial hair is warm. The girl nods and the children smile at each other. After dinner, a magician performs for the children. He clutches a bag and takes an egg out of it. This makes a strong impression on the children. The magician then invites the children to do the same. When the turn comes to Eve, the magician notes that she has a great mask. Upon learning that it is not a mask, the magician makes an unfortunate joke and calls Eve an animal. The children immediately start laughing, calling Eva a dog. This angers the girl. She growls at the magician and hits him over the head with an egg. The family hurries away from the party. At home, Eva feels lonely. She starts screaming with helplessness and smashing the dishes. To calm his daughter, her father locks her in the pantry. Here the formulas reappear in her mind. After a while, Eva asks her father to draw a portrait of her, because he often draws. But Gustav always postpones the idea until later. The next day Eva draws the train herself. When Gustav leaves, Eva runs to her new friend, a boy nicknamed Iskra who works as a telegraph operator. This is his nickname for his bright red hair. Eva hands Iskra her drawing. He is pleased and teaches the girl to work at the telegraph office. But when Gustav enters the office, Eva is forced to hide under the table so as not to anger her father. Soon after, Iskra sends Eva a leaflet deciphering Morse code to give the girl a hobby. A couple of days later, some guests gather at Gustav's house for dinner. During this time, Eva is in the next room tapping out words in Morse code. Gustav realizes that his daughter is communicating with Iskra and becomes angry. Eva, on the other hand, adds fuel to the fire and announces that she wants to become a telegraph operator. When the guests leave, Gustav locks his daughter in the pantry. Seeing this, Hannah yells at the man and demands that he allow Eva to leave the house and communicate with people. Hannah also demands that Gustav send Eva to school. After being refused, Hannah runs to her room, packs her things, and leaves. Gustav and Eva are left alone. Her father brushes Eva's hair and the girl once again asks her father to paint her, but Gustav refuses. The girl becomes homesick without Hannah. She misses companionship terribly, so she yearns to be like everyone else. While Gustav sleeps, Eva sneaks into his room and takes the shaving supplies. Eva then begins to shave her arm. Gustav catches her doing this and scolds his daughter. After some deliberation, the station master decides to bring Hannah back. He arrives at Eva's house and is prepared to agree to her demands. Eva is happy to meet her friend. The girl immediately receives a telegraph station as a gift, with which she can communicate with Iskra. Eva shares all of her worries with her friend, including the fact that she can't go to school. Hannah decides to do something about this. She goes to Dr. Levine and innocently hints that she will inform the governor that Eva is not attending school with the doctor's approval. Levine doesn't want any trouble, and he is forced to give his approval. But Gustav is still not thrilled with the idea. Eva is not bullied in class, although the children whisper and take a keen interest in the girl. But after school, the children approach Eva and start insulting her. They push the girl, tear her dress, and tear off pieces of her hair. When Eva arrives home, she quickly changes her clothes and sits down to dinner as if nothing had happened. She lies to her father and Hannah that everything went well. Gustav nods approvingly. The year is 1926. Eva is now 14 years old. Her classmates continue to bully her, and because of this, the girl often skips classes. Eva spends her time at a fishing shed by the river, reading math books. This is where Arvid finds her. He treats the girl to coffee from a thermos and wants to be friends with her. Then he undresses and jumps into the water. Eva decides to follow his example. However, the girl can't swim and starts drowning. Arvid saves her. From this point on, the teenagers become close. Eva tells Arvid about the mathematical formulas. The fascinated boy admires Eva and strokes her hair. The girl realizes that she is beginning to fall in love, but does not let her emotions come out. She quickly packs up and leaves. In the meantime, Gustav is at the office stealing money out of the safe. Then the family gathers for dinner. Gustav reports that Eva has received an invitation to a dermatology conference in Copenhagen, where top doctors will discuss skin diseases and may be able to help Eva. A new hope emerges. The father and daughter board the train. Eva's friends gather on the platform and wish her good luck. During the journey, Gustav becomes even more affectionate towards his daughter and even invites her to dinner in the dining car. The waiter looks at Eva with bewilderment, but is allayed by the generous tip from Gustav. They both have a good time. Gustav even talks about his adventures as a young man. In Copenhagen, Gustav and Eva stay in a luxurious hotel. The girl feels like a princess from a beautiful fairy tale. Soon Eva is taken to a clinic, where she has a doctor's consultation. The intrusive journalist won't let the girl pass, but she keeps her composure. Gustav is not allowed to go with her. Being left alone in the evening, Eva walks out into the hospital corridor. Here she meets a guy named Andrew. He, too, suffers from a unique skin disorder, which is why those around him call him the Lizard Man. Andrew invites Eva to his room to a drink. The guy tells the girl about a circus troupe of people with special characteristics. Among them are midgets and people with two heads. Andre is also a member of the troupe. The circus is very successful and is known throughout Europe. Listening to this story, Eva drinks a shot of vodka and feels trampled. In Andre's opinion, Eva will never be cured and she will not be able to marry, as everyone will consider her ugly. But at the circus, Eva will be able to be with others like herself and will no longer be alone. After this strange conversation, Eva sinks into a gloom and goes to sleep. In the middle of the night, she is visited by one of the dermatology professors who have arrived at the conference. He covers Eva, whispers kind words and slips his hands under Eva's blanket. The man leans over her and breathes heavily. The frightened girl makes no attempt to resist him. The next day the conference begins. The professor tells the audience about Eva's affliction, after which a bright light is directed at the girl. Eva feels uncomfortable, but the professor asks her to spin around. The doctors in the room whisper curiously, then gather around Eva. They touch the girl like a doll, twist her in all directions, and cut off strands of her hair. From the stress, Eva faints. Soon the girl is brought to her senses. After Andre's words and her suffering, Eva feels indifferent to everything. It is only when she sees Gustav, who has come to the clinic to visit her, that Eva recovers and asks her father to take her home. With the conference now disrupted, Eva cannot be cured. On the way home, Gustav asks his daughter what happened at the hospital. The girl doesn't talk about the distress she's been through. On the platform in her hometown, Eva is greeted joyfully by her friends, but the girl passes them by, eyes downcast. At home, weeping bitterly, she breaks the dishes and even the portrait of her mother. After a while, a tax inspector comes to Gustav and informs him that the authorities have become aware of the money stolen from the office at the train station. Now they want to find the culprit and bring him to justice. Gustav still has time to get out of this situation. Meanwhile, Eva continues to skip school with Arvid. The teenagers spend their time at their spot, indulging in innocent tenderness. After a moment's hesitation, Eva confesses her love for Arvid. The boy only hugs her tighter. Gustav's health is failing, and Dr. Levine recommends that he and Eva should go to a sanatorium. They arrive at a place surrounded by picturesque nature. Eva senses that her father is concerned about something, but he does not tell his daughter about his affairs. Soon Eva notices a beautiful guest in the sanatorium. One day they meet on the bank of the river and begin to chat. The beautiful woman's name is also Eva, but she is much older than the girl. The woman is 55 years old, although she looks younger. She admits that she manages to maintain this appearance thanks to relationships with rich men who pay her for various procedures. Now she enjoys snail therapy. Previously, the woman tried to bathe in whale's blubber, but it was a questionable experience. The young Eva listens to her friend with admiration and asks if she can attract a normal man, given her peculiarity. The older Eva replies that beauty is an empty and passing phenomenon. Beauty is useless to chase, even snail therapy is powerless. The woman advises her young friend to be herself and feel free. When Eva returns home, the first thing she does is go to the spot where she and Arvid used to go. She wants to tell the boy something important, but she notices him there with another girl and immediately leaves upset. Eva wants to tell Iskra everything, but a new employee sits in his place. The girl cannot understand where her faithful friend has disappeared to. Meanwhile, Iskra sits in Gustav's office. The chief is about to pin the money theft on him. The boy is shocked at what he has heard, for he knows that it was Gustav who has been stealing the money all this time. Gustav says that he did it all for Eva so that she would not need anything. Iskra angrily declares that Gustav is not doing enough for his daughter anyway, because she needs to go to the capital and study mathematics at the university. The chief does not believe that Eva can get in. Iskra loses the will to argue, and he leaves. Seeing that her best friend is getting on a train to leave for good, the girl asks her father to stop Iskra. Eva learns of Gustav's misdeeds and cannot forgive him for his lies and injustice, but Gustav remains unmoved. Then the girl runs after the departing train and calls out her friend's name. But there is nothing to be done, and Iskra departs without saying goodbye. Winter comes. Eva becomes more impertinent with her father and demands to take her to a circus performance where people with special abilities perform for her birthday. Such a troupe has just arrived in town. The family goes to the show. Here they first see Siamese twins, then a midget woman and the tallest man in Europe. Later, a man with hair all over his body appears on stage. Gustav cannot stand the ridicule from the audience and takes his daughter home. The circus director has managed to notice Eva, so the next day he comes to Gustav and asks him to give the girl to the circus troupe. The circus director promises that he will make Eva rich and famous, but Gustav firmly opposes this venture and throws the guest out. Eva overhears their conversation. After that, taking advantage of her father's absence, she visits the circus troupe. Here she meets her old acquaintance Andrei, and then the circus director. Eva agrees to join the troupe. At home at the station, Hannah finds Eva's farewell letter and immediately runs to the place where the circus was performing. But it is too late, the troupe has left. Hannah tells Gustav what has happened and he lets out a heavy sigh. The year is 1931. Eva is now 19 years old. She is still in the circus and becomes a crowd favorite as the Lion Girl. Eva earns a good living and saves money. But this life is not what she wants. The girl wants to study mathematics. Having saved enough money, Eva packs her things and secretly leaves the circus parking lot at night. The year is 1936. Eva is 24 years old. She is now a mathematics teacher at the Sorbonne. Students and colleagues deeply respect Professor Eva Arctander. She is invited to speak at a scientific conference where her speech creates a sensation. No one thinks to make fun of Eva's peculiarity. During the buffet after the conference, Eva receives a letter. It forces the girl to return home. This is where Hannah meets her. She cannot take her eyes off Eva and admires her beauty. It turns out that it was Hannah who wrote the letter informing her that Gustav has passed away. He was old and prepared for it. After the funeral, Eva prepares to return to Paris. Hannah offers to take something from her valuables, but Eva does not need anything. She is already wealthy. While on the platform before she leaves, Eva gives Hannah an expensive nail care product, a souvenir from Paris. It is already time for Eva to board the train. As she leaves, Hannah hands her a folder of Gustav's and hugs her tightly. Sitting in the compartment, Eva opens the folder and finds many drawings of herself in it. All of them were drawn by Gustav, because he loved Eva deeply all his life. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below, and if you liked the video please like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.